Good afternoon. We're here for another edition of now we're calling it Wire Week in Review exclusive, the WRE. Today, but before we even start, we want to say, look, if you can share the link, share the link. We'll take a couple of minutes ourselves to share the link. In the meantime, today co-hosting with me will be Mr. Mulva Kessley. We'll add Mr. Mulva Kessley to the stream, and he can, go ahead and kind of introduce himself and let us hear from him what we can expect from him today. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's Mr. Mulva Kessley for you.
Yes. Okay.
Yours,
Good
Mulva.
after.
I'll go ahead and try to share the link out there.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon and good evening to all the people who are watching this live video. It is actually an exciting thing to be co-hosting with you today on this show. I look forward to an exciting discussion. And you look good, by the way.
Thank you. I guess I'll try to do that. I don't know if I succeed all the time, but
I think you
next
do.
week, really next week, I'll be trying to go back to um, my workout and include people. Hopefully, um, more people will be wanting to be fit. We'll do like it will be a midday thing, midday 1 o'clock thing. Well, midday because I don't want to run into Fridays and overlap with this, but it will be like 20 minutes of workout, and then we do a little bit of perspectives on political issues, current issues, and stuff like that. So that's coming. Then another show that may be coming on Saturday, um, and this one is somebody who leaded why the CDC will lose the elections. We may start this Saturday. Benjamin Fanien believes he has the narrative, the data, the information as to why the CDC will lose the elections come 2023. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from him on why he thinks that, and at the same time be able to continue to get perspective from other people as to why they think the CDC slash George Weah will lose the elections in 2023. So that should be an interesting show. But also we entertain people who will believe the opposite, and for them to make their case if they really believe that um, the CDC will be able to repeat. So there's a lot of interesting stuff coming up, and we just hope that people will participate, people will join us, people will listen in as we discuss these critical issues that drive how our country moves forward, because it's very important to see what's happening in the country. So I guess we're giving people a few minutes to share the
Yes.
information. um, Join us as usual. We get we get the people um, who will come in and make like outrageous statements. But that's the beauty of democracy. I believe they can come and say what they want to say. It's up to the people listening, up to the people receiving the information, whether they believe it or not. So, Mova, this is the weekend review. We usually start off with a lot of the stuff that's happening in the news. Is there anything in the news this week that really captivated your attention that, that you want to speak to?
This week is very busy week. It's been a very busy week. I mean, it's been so busy even to the very last day. But for me, I will kind of forget about most of the political things that happen and, primarily focus on the sad events of yesterday where we lost two of our citizens under mysterious circumstances. I mean, that kind of made the week bad at the end, after an entire week of, major political activities, speculations, and everything that happened. I mean, it was so sad to see Two of our citizens lost their lives yesterday, and it will be important that the government takes this very seriously this time around and investigate the circumstances that led to the death of these two Liberian citizens, and bring an urgent closure to this. I mean, we cannot allow people to be dying under these circumstances, and the perpetrators of these heinous crimes go unpunished. It will continue, and then, I mean, it will extend to every other Liberian. So there's a threat too. It's a national security threat, by the way.
Right, Paul. Mobile is not new, right? So we know the two persons that Mobile is talking about from yesterday were Princess Cooper, a young lady who happened to be a caterer and was supposed to be at some event or fixing somebody's face, and then got a call to her comrades, her, fellow co-workers that she was going to do something, and then ultimately she called a friend of hers, a cousin named Wele, and according to Wele, she was bleeding from the mouth, and then eventually later on during the day, they found her dead, and she had told her cousin that, "Oh, they're killing me here," but basically nothing else that was explicit about who they were. So
Yeah.
the other person is a 36-year-old man called Melvin Tukpa, and that happened in Jalatown. Princess's murder. Her body was found in the ELW area behind a building. So we're not sure whether that was where she was killed or whether she was killed somewhere else and transported there. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because we know there have been at least 18 or more other murders before her that have not been really resolved. There have
Absolutely.
been
Yeah.
suspects in one or two cases, like the John Hillary Tubman case or Reverend William Aratoba case, but to say whether there has been actual conviction, we don't know. Then there's the whole situation with Matthew Innes of the Central Bank, where there was an accident, but it was a murder. Koli Bala, the Central Bank driver who and all these two people were connected to the $16 billion case,
Yes. Yeah.
and yeah, there were Maud Elliott, Emmanuel Yinswa, who headed the Internal Audit Agency. Supposedly, he was connected with some kind of audit. Then the RIA auditors, Gifte Asma, Albert Peters, um, George Fambutu, all from the LRA. There were other deaths across the country. So there's a mixture, it seems like, of politically related uh, what they call this
Yes.
stuff, politically related deaths, ritualistic deaths, and just other, murder do happen. People do get angry with other people to the point where they want to extract, their life, their blood. But we cannot have a system of governance that allows that to happen. And that's where, we call upon government to do something, to say something to these people, to investigate these murders. And if they're not qualified or competent enough, then they need to express that to the Liberian people that we don't have that ability to investigate these cases. Um, but we need help. I'm sure the Liberian
We
people, if
do.
the police can humble themselves and come to the Liberian people, we can all work together to see how we can improve the capacity of the police. But when you act like you already qualified, capable, competent to do all these things, but you can't do it, we can't see any results for any of these things, it's really bothersome, all about. So what do you
No,
think?
but the point is, I don't think the police is acting like they know what they're doing. Um, they are very unfriendly in these situations. They antagonize people who even want to talk about these deaths. Most times, they go after people who are critical and asking questions. So it's never really been about, engaging with the public or whatsoever. I mean, they make it look like it is a crime to talk about these mysterious deaths. And excuse me, it is not every time the public is accusing the government of killing everybody. But when you start to appear very defensive in these cases, then you create the avenue for people to make speculations and guesses that the government or people that are around the power that be are responsible. And then when you conduct yourself very irresponsibly, Liberians will be right to make the comments they make. So that's the point. The government and the police, unfortunately, irresponsibly handle each of these circumstances. Irresponsibly. They do not go after the perpetrators, they most times come after people who are critical or people who are sharing information. I mean, even if someone shares a gossip or a rumor that you think is not true, the very way you engage them, scares away, potential witnesses or people who have some information that may lead to the arrest of the perpetrators of these crimes. But I mean, the police generally antagonizes the public. So that's the reason why most of these deaths remain unresolved. And
And
I
for
don't
me
think this
personally,
government.
I don't know whether it's intentional or it's lack of experience or understanding what they are supposed to do. I mean, typically in murder cases, you look to those people with close contact, those people connected with that individual to start your investigation before you try to spread the investigation outwards. But a lot of times, the way it's presented, like as soon as somebody die, oh, we suspect the husband, the boyfriend, or something. Sometimes it intimidates people and it stops them from speaking. But I don't think that's what
Yeah,
you're talking about. You're talking about just the overall disposition of the police to people in general, to people who want to
absolutely.
help, to people who want to provide input. And that's a mindset that's very prevalent in this government in terms of just anything, whether you're suggesting how they should approach road construction, electricity. There's so many people who have offered wonderful ideas to government and they just get upset, they just reject them, they don't want them involved. So I know usually we go to the end to like highlight some of the comments from people, but maybe since this is something that's specific to murders and stuff, and some people are making comments. We can look at one or two comments from here to touch on, so people can know that we're following what they are saying. Um, the person said the unexplained deaths in Liberia since this government's inception is so scaring. The saddest thing is that nothing happens, and people don't understand impunity is contagious. If people
It
at the high
is.
level are doing things and nobody is stopping them or none of them have the conviction or the sense to say we need to stop this stuff, it will continue. And then the next people at the next level will feel that they can do things and nothing happens. Look at the justice system today. Everybody violates the justice system with no sense that they will be held responsible or accountable for their actions. And then
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, just on that point, I wanted to raise this. By the way, even the people who are handling our justice system, take for example the Solicitor General, he's had accusations levied against him times without number. The government has never ever gone after him. There has never been an instance where he's being called for an investigation. So it makes it look like there are people who are untouchable. So how do you think these criminals will even be a threat when they basically are cohorts or operatives of people who should be heading the justice system? I mean, there are a lot of questions that would run to mind when these things happen, Isaac.
Right. And so I have a comment here. I don't understand where he's going. He says, but you have a little over 20 murder cases without a single arrest. You are still talking about why we will not be re-elected.
I mean, I
Isn't
think
there a
that
reason
person
why
is
he
trying
shouldn't
to
be
say.
re-elected? Have you read your constitution, Akkoy? Do you know what the
But I think the
constitution?
person is supporting the proposition that we should not be re-elected or we will not be
No, he said he's
re-elected
still
because of.
talking about it. That means we are not supposed to talk about it. And I didn't say we are not be like I said why we will lose. That's what I said. So I'm coming from the flip side.
Okay.
The point is, the president, the executive branch is responsible for our security to ensure that the environment the Liberians live in is safe and secure. That's their responsibility. People were already scared to come out in the night. Now daybreak, raw daylight robbery, raw daylight killing, it intimidates people. So I mean, I don't know the point you're trying to make, but we all question. Um, we need something different. We need a new dispensation. The people need to stand up to recognize that their lives are not secure, their lives are not safe, and something needs to be done. They need to stand up. That government need to take action. We don't want mob justice or vigilante actions all across the country. No, that would not be in the right direction. Then everybody will be taking their own standards as opposed to the law. So we really need to restore good governance in the country. Yeah. So we can move on to the next major story.
Yeah.
that we thought we saw this week.
Yes.
For me, I want to touch on the Cummings camp, where his lawyers accused Solicitor General of prosecutorial or misconduct. And the accusation was based on the fact that the document that, what's his name? The Solicitor General, Serena Cephas, submitted to the court excluded the chat room activities, right? They had submitted documents, a whole bunch of documents, maybe more than 50, 60 pages of documents of the conversation that went on in the CPP National Advisory Council chat room, the NAC, NSC. And the dates, July 2nd to July 19th, all those text messages there were excluded. So the prosecution felt that that was a criminal extraction of pieces of evidence that will help to establish the innocence of Mr. Cummings and exonerate him from the false accusations there. Were you aware of any of this going on at all?
Well, the revelation was actually made in court sometime of last week when the defense team was cross-examining the lead state witness, Tito Momo of the All Liberian Party. That's when that revelation was made. And since then, I mean, the Solicitor General came up with a counter statement to the statement that was released by the Alternative National Congress. And I mean, the sheer fact that the president has now taken action against Serena Cephas as we speak, it clearly states why most of these things are happening in this country with absolutely no redress and why Liberia keeps going down the drain. Because this is a major political case. It involves an opponent of Mr. Weah. Whatever happens in this case reflects negatively on the general image of the government. So the accusations that have been levied against Solicitor General should be taken very seriously by the courts. By the way, they should go after this case is investigated. And the court has opened an investigation. Unfortunately, as I learned, the prosecution team did not even show up to the very first calling for investigation.
Yes, it was supposed to be, I believe, on Wednesday, but
Yeah,
they claim that it has Supreme Court appearance. So I'm sure maybe if they did have it, it was one person, Cephas. So do they
which
not
is
have other
absolutely
lawyers
ridiculous.
who could be represented? So it's just so embarrassing and so disappointing that this Solicitor General is not. He doesn't have a competent team that can represent for one, and they're now avoiding this because it's a clear fact. If people want, I can show them the document that they presented that showed between July 2nd and July 19th, no activity, and other documentation that show there was activity there. So it's just sad that these guys would go about this in such a criminal fashion just to prove somebody guilty when they know that there's information in there where Mr. Cummings presented a final draft of the CPP framework document after the lawyers have reviewed it and gave it to them. And there's even a separate chat room, the legal chat room that Mr. Cummings established immediately on the
Yeah,
20th,
yeah,
immediately after they signed that ceremonial signing on TV or on Zoom, where they each were in 4 different places and signed the document. Right after that, there was a big outcry because people felt the jobs clause in there that all jobs should go to people who were strong and CPP partisans and etc. And there were articles about it. Martin Colley wrote about it. FPA wrote about it. Observer, all of them wrote about it. And then the next day, Mr. Cummings constituted a new chat room. They reached out to lawyers, Kofi Woods, Kabina Jane, Kanga Finlay, and Benedict Sano, and 1 or 2 other lawyers. And those lawyers were the one that guided the process for like nearly a month for them to come up with a new document, revised document. And those lawyers did a presentation to all of them in a group that they agreed to. And what happened after that? After that, Mo Ali went around to get signatures from the different people for that document to be submitted. And he said that on Spoon TV. So for them to come back and say, nothing happened. I mean, I don't understand how people can just blatantly lie like that. It's really really crazy. Um, and we can't just keep belaboring the point. We really want this case to move forward. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that because there's always an opportunity for excuses from the prosecution or maybe sometimes even the defense about why it can go. So we cannot lay our roadmap and say this case will end in April or May or whatever, but we just hope that it can be expeditious and that the ending of the case will really be bringing to justice those who are really violating the law as opposed to the false accusation against Mr. Cummings.
Yeah, and funny enough, why they are prosecuting Mr. Cummins for allegedly extracting or adding to the framework document, they are the ones extracting from the evidence, that is, by the way, in the hands of the defense team. They are the ones extracting from that. So, particularly, the prosecution seems to be the criminals in the case.
Yeah,
So, the prosecution is now under investigation for criminal activity in a criminal case. So, you see the irony there.
yeah, it's really ironical. So moving on, we also heard in the news that the NEC has put up the elections for LOFA, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that may be something close to your own heart.
Very.
Um, Now, Brandon Samokai case, from all evidence, is not a factor in that particular election anymore, even though many people felt that he should have taken his seat, and then the criminal consequences come into play because he did win his seat. But notwithstanding, the NEC has opened the door based on the recommendations from the legislature, within the time period that the seat is vacant. So, how the seat was declared vacant, I don't know, but the seat is vacant. And what are the circumstances that really create that vacancy of a seat based on that case? Again, is something that could be argued, but I don't know if Mr. Samokai is pushing to take that stand for some kind of investigation to be done to really see what determines vacancy, whether his situation creates that vacancy or not. Notwithstanding, the NEC has put it out there, and there's some noise around that whole election now, right? Are you aware of some of the noise around it?
Yeah, very big loss, by the way, growing up. But, just something I want to point out that some guy would not put up any fight for the seat because technically he's under the government's leash. I mean, at any time they can go after him, they can grab him and jail him. So I don't think he would want to tread that path, by the way. So he would just let this go. Maybe in another election, when Joshua is no longer president, he may decide to run again. But for this seat, he's lost it. He cannot even put up any defense whatsoever for it. But the major thing I see in the Lofa County election is the fact that Unity Party may not be able to, feed a candidate in Lofa.
And why is that?
based on, based on the existing framework document of the collaborating political parties and the clause that bars a party from contesting the next election when they leave the CPP, the party may not be a candidate in the Lofa County election. I know they're going to contest it, but let's see how it plays out. I don't see them, feeding a candidate in Lofa, and that will open up the space broadly for a lot of other parties to feed, more competent candidates or to see a new face, by the way, in the Lofa legislature. Samuka was coming as a new face, but now he's out. I see most of the other old names that I already been suggested by the Unity Party, but now with them in this halubalu, I know a lot of candidates, potential winners, would not want to go to the Unity Party. They will obviously go to other parties, and then Lofa's election will be a test case for the CDC in Lofa. They've been doing a lot of work there. Thomas Fala, Jefferson Koji, and all the guys from Lofa have been involved massively with rallying Lofans to support Mr. Weah in 2023. And they will see this as a litmus test for them. And I think it's one of the reasons why the government adjudicated this case, the Samuka entire case, to the very end and ensure that that seed was put out again for another contestation so they can test the waters, for 2023.
Yeah. So the fact that Samoka is not in the race, it really opens the door, like you said. But at the same time, it will test the strength, like you say, of the George Weah government, right? There are a
Yes.
significant number of local officials, and they have been trying to do work over there. But historically, they have not won elections in Lofa County.
Yeah.
So this is really, really going to be a test for their government. Additionally, I have here the uh, notification from NEC that's asking the different parties to attend a hearing. So they sent an assignment out. That was what today, March 25th. They sent it to Honorable Musa Ability, Honorable Darren Natin, and others. They said, you are hereby cited to appear before Attorney Fumba A.M. Soiree on Monday, March 28, 2022, at the hour of 11 o'clock a.m. in a small conference hall of the National Elections Commission on 9th Street, Cinco, for hearing concerning the above caption matter. And the above caption matter is the CPP's March 24, 2022 complaint to the National Elections Commission. So for many of those who have not heard of or seen the complaint was a letter from the CPP to the NEC requesting several things. So that was on March 21st. They sent this letter to the NEC. There were probably like 4 or 5 things that they wanted. The first thing, they complained that there was no formal letter to the CPP or notification to the CPP from the ALP or the Unity Party to the National Advisory Council or the National Executive Committee regarding their withdrawals. They have only heard it in the media. And based on a letter from both the LP and the UP to the NEC, they requested that the NEC bar the use of their name and logo from the CPP logo. So based on that situation, the current CPP was requesting that the NEC gave them the official status of the ALP and the Unity Party as it relates to the CPP. And also, they asked that the commission require both the ALP and the UP to provide official communication to the CPP of their withdrawal and waiving any future or further rights within the CPP. That was the first one. The second one, they raised the issue of Section 8.5, parenthesis 2, which talks in the CPP framework document about the process by which any of the constituent parties of the CPP could withdraw their membership from the CPP. And to read exactly what that section says, it says, constituent party desiring to withdraw from the CPP shall first exhaust the dispute resolution mechanism stipulated in this framework document. If the constituent party has satisfied the dispute resolution mechanism and is not satisfied with the outcome, it shall file a resolution to withdraw from the CPP signed and duly executed by 2/3 of the membership of its National Executive Committee. It being understood, however, and this is the key, that a party withdrawing from the alliance prior to the next presidential, legislative, and local elections shall not field candidates in its name. And that is the major issue. So thereby, they were asking the commission to invoke this section of the CPP framework document and reject and deny any application from ALP and Unity Party. So that's some very, very interesting stuff. It will take a lot of political machinations for us to get that result, but hopefully the NEC will resolve it
Absolutely.
soon if they go by the paper, right? If it cut and dry. The third issue
Yes.
they raised, is that based on the UP withdrawal, since the UP was the chairman at that time, the rotational chairman of the CPP, it has disrupted some of the activities of the CPP with regards to the secretariat, the headquarters, and other things like that. So they want the next input on that, but they are also seeking legal advice as to how to proceed within the CPP, given that the current chairman is leaving and believe the next chairman was supposed to be the ALP, which has also left. So those are some of the
Yes.
things that are happening on our political front. So you can weigh in over.
Well, the CVV case continues. I mean, it's not going to end anytime soon. I think this will drag on until 2023. Um, except that the UP and ALP, are working in the background to see how they can come up with some collaboration that is being speculated. But until that happens, I foresee the two parties going to court continually, to try to literally rubbish the framework document. The ongoing case, by the way, against Mr. Cummins, one of the reasons why Mr. Cummins is in court is because the guys feel that if that law uh, stays as it is, they will have no legal grounds whatsoever, to feed candidates, and the only ways through which they can be allowed to run again in other elections is when the courts, declare the law or the framework document, null and void and illegal. So that's
I,
that's the that's the major target of the whole case against Cummins. Yeah.
I don't think that is going to happen because that document is a valid document. So they could be in for a lot of issues. And then the NEC has also recognized Musa Ability as the legitimate, LP. So that's another
Yes.
hindrance on the part of the Unity Party and the ALP
Yeah.
having as a partner Dylan Yombly. But interestingly, the Unity Party in a letter or the press release, they didn't reference Liberty Party as a party. They referenced just the name of Ability and somebody else. Even the other day on a
They did
show,
not.
Amin Moda refused to call Mr. Ability chairman of the Liberty Party. So it's an interesting dynamic that Unity Party is now taking Yombly and Dylan Trouble and putting on their backs and not referencing the legitimate partner in the CPP. So if
No surprises there whatsoever.
no,
Youngly and
but
Delo are their partners in crime.
yeah, they are the partners in crime, but come on, you got to reference and give appropriate respect to the people you're dealing with, and not doing that, it really speaks a lot about the principles and integrity of the people involved, which is very disappointing to me because I know as a man of principle, if you cannot respect the next decision that Musa Belite is the chairman for the LP, then what can he respect or be able to hold fast to?
I've heard many of the guys say the NEC does not run political parties, and the NEC does not have the power to determine who is the chairman of a party, and the list goes on and on. Yeah, that may be true, but the NEC has the constitutional bylaws of every political party. By the time that is enacted and presented to the NEC now holds you to that standard. I mean, it is a standard that you decide by yourself. Like the framework document of the CPP, we made the decision, we crafted the framework document and submitted to the NEC legally. That means everything inscribed in that piece of law, applies to us. It is no longer the NEC controlling us. It is our own law that has been presented to NEC that is now speaking, or that is determining the way we operate. So that's where they are. And unfortunately, by the way, they will never want to recognize Belity because by doing that, they will anger Nyomli and Delon, and that may cause a major fracture in their, in their little clique. And so it's understandable. None of them, regardless of how you may feel they have integrity, they have right standing or whatever, they will not recognize Belity. They will not call him chairman because that will anger, their partners, and they do not want to lose anyone in that partnership at any time because doing that at this crucial stage, will lend the opponents some favorable advantages, and they don't want that. So,
Okay. So moving on. Do you know Cleopatra Cummings? Who she is?
No, I don't. I say to tell me.
She's the senior protocol officer for President Weah, who was indicted for attempted murder. Supposedly,
Oh wow.
earlier this week, yes, earlier this week, she was indicted, and you know, and she attempted to harm a teacher with a razor blade, and they didn't take it for a joke. They said she was being indicted for aggravated assault and attempt to commit murder. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's a case that's being looked at. Again, we just hope justice can be done. If she's falsely accused, she should be hopefully found innocent. If not, if she actually attempted to kill this lady called Grace Wah, who's a teacher at the GIG International School, then she should bear the penalty. And I know our laws are clear on the instances of assault and attempted murder, and they were supposed to issue an arrest for her. We don't know if that arrest order was issued, but that was earlier this week. Hopefully by next week we'll get more update on the case. Um, it just I don't know whether that's a case of impunity, feeling that the fact that she has proximity to President Weah, she can do what she wants to do to other people. So
But I want you to point out an instance where someone who has proximity to President Weah actually faced justice since Mr. Weah became president. I want you to point out any instance whatsoever when such a person close to President Weah, actually faced justice.
no,
You
I
cannot
can't.
point to
I
any.
can't. It's I mean, look, impunity is extremely high in the country. No
It is right.
accountability. Like you said, all the noise people have made about what's his name? Uh the Solicitor General Serena Sifos and all his escapades and stuff. But it's not new though. It didn't start under this government. He's been having a lot of noise behind him from before. But just the statement from uh, the former lady who was head of the aviation agency that went. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She was in the news. She was there for fraud as well.
Ellen Cochran.
Ellen Cochran. She stole from the U.S. government, and I believe she's supposed to have a prison term. But her interaction with CFOS and some of the things they were doing, ritualistic murder and stuff like that she was talking about, and a lot of people truly believe that there's a high incidence of, people wanting to use medicine and stuff all over this place. And to do that effectively, they got to sacrifice other Liberians. And this medicine business is crazy. The extent that people go to get their wishes accomplished
To
through
get power.
juju,
To get power.
voodoo, or whatever, to get certain powers is amazing. And I don't know how we can stop that or how we can change our people mindset around stuff like that. But it's
Well, we have
important.
a merit-based system. That's the only way we will get rid of such instances or things like that. I mean, and the unfortunate thing is, under Mr. Weir, that is not going to happen. I mean, if he gets reelected, God forbid, if he gets reelected, things are going to get worse. Because he's good at protecting people who are loyal to him, regardless of what people say. I mean, under the principles of good governance, by the way, the outcry from the public, it doesn't have to be a fact, but because you respect your citizenry when they cry about something, you have to investigate it. Even if you have a different opinion about the person
Let
or
the
the cry coming
investigation
from the
prove
person.
your opinion. Let the investigation prove your
Absolutely.
opinion.
Absolutely. And that's what Mr. Weah has failed to learn since he became president. As far as concerned, in as much as he feels that this person has not done it or he's my friend, he can't do it, no matter what we say, no matter how much we cry, no matter how many times we protest, he's not going to do anything. I mean, it's almost like F with the public. That's how it looks like. Our president does not care about how many times we cry and how we cry. Because to have your Solicitor General facing these allegations of ritualistic killings and human rights violations, and you still have him there, that means you don't care about your own image as president and the image of your government and generally the image of the entire country. Because these things do not just stay in Liberia. They get out there, the international community is watching, and they will come back, by the way, to hunt Mr. Weah. Because look, you cannot be shooting people. I mean, in such a democracy, that is so fragile, you cannot be shooting people. You should let them go out there. I mean, you can investigate. If your investigation proves that the person has done nothing wrong, you can still keep them on their job, or you can reappoint them. Whatever you can do, but you have to listen to the public because it improves your standing in terms of good governance, in terms of strengthening your democracy. It gives your citizenry a voice, and that voice empowers even you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, Mr. Weah doesn't see things that way. He feels that the interests of his people around him, you know, are much more important than the general public. But
Mhm.
that goes to say that if the president is not involved directly or indirectly in some of these things, he will have the voice, he will have the temerity, the boldness, the audacity to go after people who are alleged to be involved in some of these things. But unfortunately, some of these allegations have even gone to the president's doors. So no wonder why he would not go after people because I mean he's facing some of these allegations too.
Yep. And it's like they don't care. That's the impunity. That's the highest form of
You know.
impunity, where they really do not care what happens with what the citizens are complaining about, what the citizens desire. So it's unfortunate that that happens. Is that a call to you?
No,
Oh,
oh,
that's somebody calling me. I don't know. Uh, I have to decline it, and
you are a famous man, so I mean, people will always
my
call.
apologies. My apologies.
Call. Yeah.
Let me just tell you on a show. I will call back.
Okay, but yes. Please, Aztec is on the show. I know he's popular and famous, but give him a space. He'll call you back.
So the next thing I was thinking about is Liberty Party is supposed to hold a special quote unquote map up convention in April to settle their leadership, some constitutional issues, um, the LP and ANC MOU that was being talked about, and whatever else that they have to do. So this is like a constitutional provision where they say that if uh, there are certain issues, some of which could be um, deliberating on the national chairman state of the party address, uh, reviewing a resolution from the LP initially not to feature a standard bearer in the 2023 elections, um, the current MOU situations, the situation, the CPP, that allows those kind of issues, allow them to have a special convention where they can make some major decisions to drive the party forward. And that also factors in the fact that Yomli and other executives have been suspended, removed from office, whether expulsion or other things will factor in. So they're expecting to be having a major, powwow or meeting in April, specifically April 23rd, to discuss all of these things. You have any thoughts on LP moving in that direction to do, what they say they want to do?
This is a very slippery slope. So the LP's convention in April, I mean, it's a make or break basically of the LP engagements and its collaboration now with the ANC and other parties. I I don't know whether there is a sudden change of fortune and the LP feels that she has a candidate that she can feel, for the presidential slot in 2023. I don't see that person yet. So I mean, I wouldn't want to generally speculate, but I look forward to seeing what comes out of that convention. I know they're gonna replace Yombly and they have already replaced Delon. I don't think they'll find someone else for the position he had. So let's see what happens. But Musa Bede pretty much has his grip on the party as things stand. Let's see whether he will remain as party chair or whatever happens from that convention. I don't want to make any much speculations about what will happen in the Liberty Party. Looking at them as a sisterly party, so I'll stay away from that line.
Oh yes, they are. They are. We are members of the CPP right now, so yes, they are a
Yeah.
sister party, and we just hope that they can resolve all of these issues and come out, a stronger political entity in our partnership as the CPP as we move forward together. So that's a good thing. Um, the other issue that has come about to some extent has to do with the recent news, right?
Mm.
Cassell, um, Daniel Cassell, supposedly, was it yesterday or day before that the news came that he was
The day before yesterday.
day before yesterday that he had been arrested in the United States as a fugitive. Um, and I guess when you commit a crime in the U.S. in any of the states and you're not available and um, only the only option they have is to declare you a fugitive if you're down there to answer to your crime. So any airport you come to, any location in the U.S., once they can track you, you will get arrested and extradited to whatever that location is. But we heard supposedly is medical bills and other stuff. That's the issue. So we just
Mm.
hope that Mr. Cassell can face justice as he is now in the hands of the law and be able to handle his case. Like on his page, he had posted this too shall pass. So we hope for his own sake and for his
Exactly.
family's sake, it shall pass. But uh, as a presidential candidate, what are your views on somebody being in that situation?
I mean, uh, the presidency of any country, like you have been no exception whatsoever, should be reserved and preserved for the best of every given society. And for someone facing, charges of being a fugitive, regardless of how small the issues may be, I mean, I think he's lost. For me, he's lost that cloud to be president or to even want to venture, for the Liberian presidency. I mean, he has displayed a character that is uncharacteristic of what a presidential candidate should be. Unfortunately, our politics has gone to the mud. So, regardless of what someone do, I mean, they still come up and say they won't be president, and a lot of people go after them or support them. But Dana Kasa was practically a new baby on the block, and to see him go down this quickly is terribly bad. I feel bad for him, because he's a Liberian citizen. But I mean, I think he's lost the right. I mean, personally, I think he's lost the right to want to contest for the highest seat of our nation. I mean, we cannot have an indictee, at that level, contesting for our presidency. He's lost that right.
Well, to be honest, we have like ex-convicts, people who are convicted, have come
Unfortunately,
to Liberia and contested for positions and won.
unfortunately,
You know, we got people who were indicted for different other issues, whether it was child support, like in the case of George Weah, or whether some other thing. And our population, I guess, there's a need to educate our people on just simple civics, simple responsible citizenship, simple rights and privileges that the Constitution accords, and how we are supposed to look at people in positions of power, people who are supposed to be elected or candidates for election, all of those things. A lot of our people don't have the understanding of where things are supposed to be. And I think we can't wait for government to do that. Even the simple thing like civics in schools, it has not been really implemented to its fullest, that all our students are privileged, or actually it's now a privilege, to be a right for them to be educated on responsible citizenship, on civics and other stuff. But they are not being provided that opportunity. So many of them don't know what it is to be responsible citizens. And then when you come in the communities, most of our people, again, what, nearly 85% are not educated, are not literate, and they're
Mhm.
not exposed to the brick and mortar schools. So they don't have that understanding. Even if they were, it's not being taught there. So the responsibility, though it should be on government, it's not shifts to the public or those who want a better Liberia or change in the mindset of Liberians to be able to do that kind of education and explanation and role playing that will let people understand fully what it means to be a responsible citizen. So I hope some of the political parties can step up in that regard. It's something that I've been crying for the longest time. I've participated with an organization over the last several years that we wrote a civics book. We have a community civics program that can really help with this. And it's up to people now to take some of that stuff and move forward with it and educate our people, enlighten them on what they are supposed to do to be able to achieve some level of responsible citizenship.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, but our education, by the way, it's greatly challenged, and it is one of the contributing factors to uh, what we're discussing right now. I mean, we don't teach our students or librarian students are not really taught to be critical thinkers. I mean, critical thinking is practically not even anywhere part of our education, and it contributes to some of these things. I mean, people do not independently think on their own and come up, with logical conclusions, and it's a major problem. So the very people that have some level of education, they are not truly educated. Yes, they may be literate, they can write their name whatsoever, but I mean, they speak just as the ordinary people who've never sat in class before. So there's a very thin line between educated people in Liberia and the uneducated people in Liberia. Because basically both sets think and act the same way. In fact, if anything, the educated ones act worse than the ones that are more educated. So you see, we have a very huge vacuum, some void somewhere. I mean, and there's not just a one fix or one fit it all thing. It has to be very holistic. It has to start from way down the line. And by the way, one way we can be able to raise the bar is when we get a president who will set an example. A president, take for example, an Obama style president who will be very emphatic on pushing for excellence and leadership that is uncommon. If that happens, it will reawaken or it will awaken the consciousness of the citizenry. But I mean, we can have presidents that still, operating these mundane circles, and you expect things to change. So it's going to be hard. I mean,
Very,
it's going
very,
to be
very, 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 very hard. So the next item I want to talk about, and it just came about today in the news. I don't know if people know who Michael Rubin is. Michael Rubin wrote an article on Liberia. Basically, the article is entitled like Biden can pull Liberia back from the brink. And so all recognize we are at the brink. Something is about to break. We are just not operating correctly as a country. And Rubin is a fellow, actually a resident scholar at American Enterprise Institute. Um, he's a senior lecturer at the Naval Postgraduate School Center for Civil and Military Relations, and he's a senior editor of the Middle East Quarterly. So he also does op-eds for different newspapers and stuff like that. And he wrote an article um, today, or it came out this morning on Liberia. And just to provide people some insight, we'll just read some excerpts from it. He says on February 13, 2022, President Joe Biden announced a special presidential delegation to attend Liberia's bicentennial commemoration of the arrival of the first freed American slaves to Providence Island on West Africa. Okay, we know that. Um, then he says he tried to give a little bit of background on Charles Taylor. Then he went to the whole thing about stability returning on Ellen Johnson's leave. Then he said, at the bicentennial, the delegation headed by Dana Banks, representing the Biden administration, condemned Liberia's growing corruption. And she said, like many democracies, Liberia still has work to do to seriously address and root out corruption. Too many of Liberia's leaders have chosen their own personal short-term gain over the long-term benefit of the country. And that's a fact. We've seen it. Many of our leaders have been able to exert their own personal platform, desires, aggrandizement in front of the country's interests. And consequently, we have bad concession deals. We don't see the returns for our natural resources, the taxes that people pay, the revenue that government generates. we don't see his impact on the people is very limited. But his case
Mm,
focuses on George Weah and Jefferson Koji and calling for um, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, to make an example and be able to issue sanctions against them. But I think the list is longer if you want to talk about that in terms of who should be sanctioned. I think it would take some clear investigations. We know that Chris Smith had declared our country a kleptocracy. There's a bunch of rules operating as a government. And is all the information is there in terms of what has gone wrong and all the different things that have been done. So if um, the government, the U.S. government is very serious, they can bring those sanctions to bear. We know that for the J.J. Roberts' birthday, the U.S. Ambassador McCarthy, he was very clear on the different level of corruption, the legislature not even being able to identify who votes how, lack of transparency in government, lack of accountability, the use of medical provisions for personal use rather than for the people who deserve it, the Liberian people. So all of those
mm,
things combined with the previous corruption that we saw from the lack of accountability with regard to the 16 billion, the 25 million map of what it was really used for, all of that. All those things come to bear that the level of corruption in this government is crazy. So,
it
what
is.
do you think about what Michael Rubin is saying?
Well, first, I want to state emphatically clear that I support his call for sanction on some of these government officials. Uh, the only way President Weir, Koji, and all the other people will start to respect Liberians is when they are placed under sanction, they cannot travel to America, and their assets are freezed. I mean, because there is wanton corruption. I mean, corruption is walking on the streets without anyone recognizing it or even. I mean, corruption looks like it has become a way of life, a way of government and governing under Mr. Weir. So it starts from the executive mansion all the way down, and everything in our governance structure has been corrupted. Everything in terms of accountability, in fact, respect for rule and law, that is not existing. And it goes down to disrespecting the very Liberian citizenry. And it all boils down to why we're having mysterious deaths everywhere. And some of these people are alleged to be involved. Some of the people who died, by the way, were directly involved with some of the graphs or corruption things that happened, and the news was all here, the $16 billion thing, and how that driver died. I mean, those are people who had information. The government did not protect them. They died under mysterious circumstances, and absolutely nothing was done, to bring their death to any logical conclusion whatsoever. I mean, so if we do not have sanctions on these people, they will continue doing what they've started doing from day one up to today. So, I mean, I support the call, and it should start with President Weah. If it starts with President Weah, it extends to all his officials. I mean, they will take governance more seriously. I'm telling you, if they know that there are consequences for their actions and their inactions, they will take governance more seriously. They will respect the Liberian citizens. They will respect the laws. But until that happens, I mean, these people will keep running. You even saw that the legislature, when the U.S. government flagged out Councillor Sherman and barred him from going to America, I mean, some guys in the legislature were shaking, right? But because people in the executive feel they are untouchable, they still going to America and coming back. I mean, they will keep doing things as it is. But approaching the election time, or before even the close of this year, I'm expecting that some of these people will be placed on a section sanctions, and then government will get better. It will be late, but it
Well,
will get
well,
better.
well, we hope so. I mean, because for the benefit of our citizens, if a government is functioning properly and helping the people, some of us don't care because then everybody has the opportunity. Like you said, there can be a meritocracy where based on your own capabilities, your own effort, how you work, you can improve your situation. So, we just hope that is what happens as we move forward. So are there any other issues for the week that you want to bring up? Because I think the we are called to Costa made some noise, but that's
I was just I mean we cannot pass that.
okay. Okay, I had a special yesterday on it because the two guys were gossiping about me, and I guess we were trying to use Costa to be a messenger for him with some lies, and I had to address those lies. So
Mm.
it's up to you. You know what you want to say about them. I'm done with those two BMs.
I mean, with where things are, there is an increasing likelihood that Costa will throw his support behind Weah. I mean, I'm part of the people that are making that prediction, by the way. And he will go after his current fellows in the
But he ain't even got
opposition.
to do that. He just got to play all the videos before when he was causing Joseph Boyka in 2017 for people.
No. At that time, the difference now is that he was costing Buakai and making statements about Buakai from a distance. He had not had the kind of personal engagements he's had with Buakai in the last couple of months. I mean, now he knows Buakai interpersonally. Buakai and Costas slept in the same house. He took Buakai around. I mean, he knows Buakai from morning to evening. That's a difference, a huge difference, and he will be able to use that to cause colossal damage for Joseph Buakai if he goes to Mr. Weah, which is very, very likely. Because, I mean, there's no way, looking at Weah, who has displayed unending viciousness against his opponents, and let me put it that way, they make a color speech and the whole things are hot. There's no way Weah will just change in one day and he becomes friendly with Costa because he just won't be friendly with Costa. And he gave him Costa radio equipment and everything. I mean, there's something very
Let me
deep
let me
under this.
let me see if uh I can share a graphic. I did. It's really a kind of desperation relationship, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
those two individuals, they got some needs that they want to deal with right now. So, um,
absolutely. We are wants to get reelected. Costa wants the money.
there you go.
That's it.
So I had done a little graphic that I will share with people. To me, that kind of sums up what the relationship is. Let me see if I can share my screen here so people can see it. I'll share this window. Okay, so so it cost up man while we were talking about. Let me tell you about Ava, blah blah blah. You were saying I just here for the mob, innit? I here for all that.
What are you talking? Eh?
You're right. And there's a man who been calling we are Solomon Swen for the longest time. So you are wondering whether he must tell we had a true story about his flambeau in Basel being naked butt, about a naked butt story. So obviously he didn't share that one with people, but he must have said something for Severino Seaford to come up with whole release on
Yeah,
people sharing images and stuff like that. That's a high level of connivance that they go into. On the other
absolutely.
side, we are in a man crying. He say, I got to deal with the other 419 black men begin
For
again.
one number.
He said, let
I
me
mean,
check
he
you.
has to.
Let me check you. Ava been fire. We are let call people foolish, right? Which is kind of surprising. They fully begin exactly what he was thinking with in mind. And then obviously we are looking for the support, right? So in
Yeah,
mind, if Costa ain't bring his COP people with him, he would deal with him bad way. That lapa he would tie this down around him. That the bear where they put him in to get him on the ship. So this is a mutual needs relationship. I think it's a
yeah.
desperation move by both of them. I don't know if the ultimate desire will be achieved, in terms of Henry getting the kind of man he wants, because I know at some point they will probably try to screw him. At the same time, uh, you know, I don't know that everybody who follows Henry Costa, and people really do like him, will really gravitate towards his support of this government if that's the transition. But you can tell, right? In one call to him, We came from Salomon Swan to Mecho.
Being
We
a
came
despot,
from despot to being magnanimous,
magnanimous,
dumb-headed to being smart or whatever he
smart.
believed in him. So, you know, and we know because I put the different adjectives on now. You praise we are as much as you can. But
He will.
like you say, it's probably too late. But at the end of the day, it's really, really with the Liberian people. And those who are not conscientized, can they be conscientized to understand what's at stake here and what's best for them? Because in my mind, I think in many people's mind, we have been so traumatized as a people. We don't know what's good for us. Many people don't even know what the next level on the social ladder is that they need to aspire to try to climb to. They don't know. Most Liberians just want the basic needs, and even that is not apparent for them. They're not getting it. So, how can we really sensitize them to say, look, this is where your situation is. This is where you were born into. This is how long you've been in this thing. But this is not how it should be. This is not normal living for in this 21st century we are in. Here's where you are supposed to be, and here's how we get there by moving in the right direction, wanting the right things, electing the right person who can help us achieve those things and guide us. So until we can sensitize our people to that will have a overwhelming national awareness of what the needs are and how we can get there. Many of the things we're talking are just a waste of time.
Absolutely. I mean, that's true. And that's why we need to see it as a duty to get out there and make sure our people know exactly what is happening. Because, I mean, people are not suspecting these things. They do not know. Unfortunately, many people do not know uh, what is coming, right? We may be, in a position where we can see these things, and be able to tell the public. And I mean, our duty is to get it out there to the public. If we don't
Yes,
do that, I mean, it's not going to be good for us. I mean, we'll be betraying the public too. So we have to get the information out there.
wonderful. So I think we have come to a close of our time
Yeah,
in providing the weekly update for our people who probably didn't follow the news or who wanted more clarity on some of the issues. To just answer one or two questions, no, Michael Rubin is not Liberian. Michael Rubin is American. He works with American Enterprise Institute. Um, Daniel Luo, some of the educated people are the most illiterate ones. To a large extent, that's true. Many of the educated people don't have critical thinking skills. They don't love their country like they should, and they don't look to educate other people on what it should be. Luo, again, it all boils down to poverty. To a large extent, poverty drives a lot of this belly-driven kind of mindset that many people have. That whoever is giving them the cash or can give them a few dollars to get their daily living is what it is. No, it's more than that. You, as a Liberian, you are supposed to have dignity of labor. You are entitled to opportunities, and government is supposed to create that. And that was supposed to what was supposed to happen in the CDC government. It has not happened. Job creation is a major thing that's supposed to be going on. Protection of life and property is a major responsibility of government that has been neglected. Creating a social safety net for those who cannot fend for themselves is a major responsibility of government. That has not happened. So all of those issues will continue to reveal them to the people, will bring them to the people. We'll try our best to educate them on civics and other things, as we go along with this program and several other programs that we have in mind. Another show gonna be like maybe once a week, twice a week kind of integration show, trying to get older heads and younger heads, people from different generations coming and just discussing the regular people in the barber shop, at the tailor shop, at the attire shop or whatever, just being able to lecture, talk, learn from each other, argue. We don't have to agree on some of the things that we discuss because sometimes people can be so divergent in their viewpoint they will not come to one, conclusive kind of agreement about how the solution should be. But that's fine too, because that's democracy. That's where
yeah,
people vote and decide what's the right way to go. But a lot of people don't understand that the thing when you have a different viewpoint from them, that means you hate them. No, I don't hate you.
yeah.
I just love Liberia more than you. So,
That's the
if
point.
you have any closing words, Moba, I appreciate you coming on and look forward to more participation.
I mean, this has been coming for a long time. Today has been, a good one, even though it's my debut on your show. I look forward to us working hard to strengthen a lot of aspects of the show and making it better, and then taking it to the public. Because I mean, we cannot silence our voices in the midst of everything that is happening. We need to be on the front line and ensuring that we tell the Liberian people what it is. I mean, just tell them the truth. Let them, decide for themselves what they want to do with the truth.
Right.
We cannot say it and allow people to say, "Okay, we didn't know. That's why we did it." Let's put it out there. Let them know. If they make the decision, well, they will have themselves to blame. But at least we will have played our role as patriots, as nationalists, and ensuring that we enlighten the general public and tell our people where we want Liberia and how Liberia should be, and raise the bar for national consciousness and national leadership, and ensure that we get a lot of people on board. I mean, let's get more voices heard, and those are very important things that we need to do. But it's been a wonderful time, sitting with the old man here, yeah, with the papi. So I mean, it's been good. Thank you for allowing me to be on the show today.
Wonderful. I really appreciate your participation, your presentation, your skills, your articulation of the issues, and we look forward to more of these. And we hope our audience had a wonderful time with this show. We thank you for listening, for watching, and we look forward to engaging you next week, Friday. But like I said, if Benjamin Fanier is a man of his word, we'll be on tomorrow with him giving us reasons why we will lose the 2023 elections. Peace, folks. Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you.